Good morning, everybody. I got all my stuff straight. This morning we're on lesson 38. There is nothing my holiness cannot do. Your holiness reverses all of the laws of the world. Your holiness is beyond every restriction of time, space, distance, and limits of any kind. Your holiness is totally unlimited in its power, because your holiness establishes you as a son or daughter of God, at one with the mind of the Son's Creator, which is God. Your holiness is totally unlimited in its power because it establishes you as a child of God, at one with the mind of the Creator. Through your holiness, the power of God is made manifest. Through your holiness, the power of God is made available. And there is nothing that the power of God cannot do. Your holiness then can remove all pain, can end all sorrow, and can solve all problems. Your holiness can do so in connection with yourself and with anyone else. Your holiness is equal in its power to help anyone, because your holiness is equal in its power to save everyone. If you are holy, so is everything that God created. You are holy because all things God created are holy, and all things God created are holy because you are holy. In today's exercises, we will apply the power of your holiness to all problems, difficulties, or suffering in any form that you happen to think of in yourself or in someone else. In the 4 longer practice periods, each preferably to last a full 5 minutes, repeat the idea for today that there is nothing my holiness cannot do. Close your eyes, then search your mind for any sense of loss or unhappiness of any kind. Try to make as little distinction as possible between a situation that is difficult for you and one that is difficult for someone else. Identify the situation specifically. Also, the name of the person concerned. Use this form in applying the idea for today that there is nothing my holiness cannot do. Here's an example. In the situation involving blank, in which I see myself, there's nothing that my holiness cannot do. In the situation involving blank, in which blank sees himself, there is nothing my holiness cannot do. From time to time, you may want to vary this procedure and add some relevant thoughts of your own. You might, for example, like to include relevant thoughts such as, there's nothing my holiness cannot do, because the power of God lies in my holiness. Introduce whatever variations appeal to you, but keep the exercises focused on the theme. There is nothing my holiness cannot do. The purpose of today's exercises is to begin to instill in you a sense that you have dominion over all things because of what you are, which is a holy child of God. Throughout the day, you're going to have shorter, more frequent applications too. Apply the idea that there is nothing my holiness cannot do in its original form, unless a specific problem concerning you or someone else arises or comes to mind. In that event, use the more specific form in applying the idea to that event. And that is the lesson of today. There's nothing my holiness cannot do. Good morning, everybody. Thank you so much for joining me. Hi, Stephanie. Hi, Andy. Andy, your picture's beautiful. Look at your brand new picture. How wonderful. Thank you
Thanks.
guys for joining us. Oh, boy. All right, I'm going to jump right into the notes and make the best use of our time. Stephanie, I saw you blink. Good morning.
Good morning, everybody.
This one's going to be a good meditation. I'm excited about this one, guys. And Taylor, welcome to Clubhouse. I know you're in an area we call the audience, so it's down towards the bottom of the screen. If you'd like to, you can raise your hand. We'll invite you up on the stage and you can say hi. If you'd like, you don't have to. It's up to you. But welcome here. Glad to have you. All right. The notes to lesson 38. No problem, Taylor. There's nothing my holiness cannot do. Argue for your limitations, and you get to keep them. Because you are perfect, whole, and complete. This holiness reverses all laws of the world. You are beyond any restrictions of time and space. Your holiness is unlimited because your holiness is your divine birthright. Your mind is an extension of the mind of God, your creator. God, being unlimited, can only extend that same unlimitedness. For like begets like. So what are these laws of the world that your holiness reverses? The laws of the world are the beliefs in the fear-based thought system, which dominates the mass collective consciousness of the world that you perceive. The laws of the world are based on the mistaken belief in separation, lack, limitation, and fear. Good morning, Dragana. Your world is controlled by how you define yourself. You've been indoctrinated and have accepted the worldview that you are a body. The body is you. Your ego argues for your limitations. It claims you're a limited ego body in competition with other ego bodies for the limited resources that you both need just to survive. As such, it is rooted in a fear-based thought system of lack. Fear dictates the rules of the world. Fear is false evidence appearing real. Your fear-based thought system is your private world of individuated perception that becomes your provisional reality. Your holiness changes your erroneous beliefs about yourself. Since your world is a world of perception and not reality, the laws of perception currently govern your egoic world. The law of perception states that what you believe, you will perceive. Thoughts raised to the level of beliefs become the experiences that you call into your awareness. Your beliefs become your provisional reality. Your provisional reality will change when you're willing to change those beliefs about who you really are. You are holy because your mind is a part of God's mind. You are not the victim of the world you see because you've invented the world you perceive. When you realize that you're unlimited spirit and not some game token that you call the body, you'll cease arguing for your limitations. When those beliefs change, those limitations must disappear. Your beliefs are the cause, and its effect is the world that you see, the world you perceive with your eyes. There's nothing that your holiness cannot do, because by dropping your false beliefs about who you really are, you reclaim the truth of your divine birthright. All problems, difficulties, or suffering, no matter what their apparent form is, are the same because they all arise from your erroneous beliefs about who you are. Accept your holiness and realize that your fantasies cannot change the truth. You are. You and all you perceive remain as God created you, perfect, whole, and very complete. So, our questions for the day are: if you're not the body but a spiritual essence, do the laws of physicality apply to your spiritual essence? And how would your mindset differ if you knew you were a spiritual being having a bodily experience compared to believing you're a body having a spiritual experience? What is your true reality? I welcome anybody to share anything that's coming across your mind.
I would love to share. Good morning, everybody. A few of the notes that I had when you were reading, Lee, you said, obviously the lesson is there's nothing my holiness cannot do. And when I was thinking about it, I was thinking about how when I say I can't, or if I think I know that I can't do something, it's based on my past experience. It's based on the experience of something in the past of it not happening or not going through. And that's my, like we've talked about, my ego state coming in and saying, based off your past experience, you know that you can't or you haven't done this yet. And that's what's projected into the future. And if I make space and time, because I know that my mind does that, I know that my decisions from the past are based on fear and lack, that if I know I'm going into a decision and if I know that my brain is going to do that because it's our best companion, right? It's our most loyal servant, that I know that I can create space and tell myself that there's nothing that I can't do, that I understand that that point of view is coming from my past, and that moving forward, I need to expand with a different point of view, that I need to allow that space for the spirit, or whatever you want to call it, that energy, that perspective, that awakening, that light to come in. And I can start with the intention of there is nothing my holiness cannot do. Because then that moving forward allows you to think in that direction versus going on the downward spiral of I can't do this, I haven't done this, I've never done this. So I just wanted to share that this morning. Love you guys.
Wonderful, Steph. Thank you. Anybody else?
Well, I just like to say, whenever you come from that viewpoint, and in this case, it becomes a question of how certain you are. When you come from a viewpoint that you're a spiritual being having an earthly experience, then you don't need to take this world so seriously. That doesn't mean that you will not act as a participant. It just means that you realize that that we're all here on our own perfect path for the learning lessons that it provides. And you don't really, whenever I look at someone, I don't really think of them as being that game token. I realize that they're just actors and we're all strutting our stuff on a stage for the purpose of learning lessons. So it's a totally different mindset. And what the Course in Miracles is trying to do is to increase our believability of what we really are. And so that if we can increase that certainty and that you really are a spiritual essence. And the biggest fear, if I ask anybody and I go and I ask what do you think man's or human's greatest fear? The first is always fear of death. Then that no longer becomes a question. That's why whenever we define death and birth is an individuated consciousness coming into a body, and death is that individuated consciousness leaving the body. When you have that mindset that you're not the body, that it's just your uh, game token that you need to play and hold a space on this game board of the learning lesson that the earth provides, this fear-based world, it's a totally different perspective, and fear is just drops down because there's really not anything to fear whenever you look at yourself as a learner as opposed to an earner. When you come from the idea that you're God's beloved child with whom she is well pleased, that gives you a totally different mindset, and fear just dissipates. So thank you.
Tom, when you say most people's that you come across, their the biggest fear is death. You know what I was thinking? Because actually, I've experienced this very much so. You know what was right next to it? Death did come first, but fear of life was right there. I was so afraid to live.
Boy.
Yeah, and that one there, especially in whenever we speak of life being living on this earth plane, uh, that's something that a lot of spiritual types, me included, especially in my early life, the this world was someplace I didn't want to be, and you wanted to escape from it. And a lot of times, spiritual types look at this world with the idea that it's an unholy place, and therefore they want to avoid it. They go out on a mountain and become a holy man, but they can't do it when push comes to shove in town. So, one of the things earlier in my life, my purpose was not to have to come back here. If you understand the laws of the universe, that purpose, that belief that I didn't want to come back because I was in resistance mode would have been the reason why I would have to have come back. Now, what I want is the option to come back or not, but to have that choice because you if as long as you resist something or you fear something, you still got lessons to learn. So it becomes a situation where every day is a good day to live and every day is a good day to die. Because when we say live, we're talking about an incarnated state, having a body so that we can hold a space and time and space of a place, because we need that to be able to learn our lessons and to have the fun learning lessons and to help others and ourselves, as actors on this stage. So if you want the learning lessons, you should probably, it's not a bad idea to maintain the physical token, you know, if you still have lessons to learn. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, definitely. I remember having such fear of doing anything because I didn't want to die. So I really, and not anything, but things that most people would not have a fear of, things that seem impractical. Um, and yeah, thankfully, the veil was lifted really in that way. And when I have a fear again, I realize it's like going back to that a pattern, an old pattern, an old story, which would be an old pattern. It's an old habit, even. It's the brain functioning the way the brain functions, but for some reason I hadn't collapsed that aspect of it, or maybe even how there's triggered thoughts. Maybe that one thought didn't get collapsed yet, or that one pathway, because there's actually physical pathways they've discovered. So yeah, and I was thinking about what Stephanie said, and I was thinking, I'm a big daydreamer. I do that all the time. And I think that's the way from the body, the mental part of the body, to it's actually, no, the mental is actually, well, it's that maybe the ethereal to the mental, or maybe it's even above. Maybe it's just out there. It's not like, I don't think it's part of the spirit, I guess. Yeah, probably part of the spirit. I'm kind of talking my way into figuring out where it is, but I know there's a connection that it feels like there's a connection that might be outside of the body, because I know the different like according to Vedic philosophy, I know the different densities of the body, and it's not just the physical, earth mineral part of the body, but it's also the water, the air, the heat, the ethereal. What is it? The mind. I think I skipped one.
Yep, you got
Stephanie. Oh,
it.
the mind, the intellect, which is the intellect is not inside the body. Am I right? So, like, yeah, there's some. So, is daydreaming? Where does daydreaming come in, Stephanie? That would be where I would imagine something being able to happen and seeing something to fruition. Do you know where it is in that body, or is it outside of the body also?
Visualization is using the benefits of the mind to create your reality. So visualization is using the mind, but you're using to create the things in the visualization, like the ideas that come up and the inspiration that you get are coming from outside. That's the difference between visualization and daydreaming. Daydreaming, you're very like, I'm doing this, I want this, this is what I want. And in visualization, it's very much so. And this is kind of the difference of them. And thank you, Andy, for bringing this up, because I do believe that people feel like visualization and daydreaming in some planes are kind of the same thing. But if you
I
think
need you
about it,
to.
we're always
So
daydreaming.
sorry, Stephanie.
No,
I
you're
need you
good.
to
You're
say
good.
it again because I just I didn't make the connection or the disconnection. I didn't see the difference. I'm sorry. And I did make that mistake. So I want to know.
Yeah. So think about like when we're just going throughout our day, we're creating things in our mind, right? We're always creating our reality, right? Everyone typically thinks when we go into a visualization is when we're visualizing. When we go into daydreaming is when we're daydreaming. But we're doing it 24 hours a day. We're always visualizing, we're always creating this reality. The difference is when you go and you partner with this energy, when you are a co-creator with this energy. The visualization, what you're talking about, comes from, in Ayurveda, visualization is coming from your mind. In Ayurveda, it's coming from the images in your mind. You're creating something in your mind's eye to come into this reality. The difference between daydreaming and visualization is daydreaming, you're kind of just willy-nilly, just kind of going wherever your mind takes you. Visualization, you are co-creating, you're paying attention, you're being
Oh,
very aware.
okay.
You're Does that make more sense?
I didn't mean to stop you, but yes, I see what you mean. It's intentional.
Yeah,
And
it's
I
based,
do,
that's the difference with everything in life, right? It's just the intention.
yes, and I do both, and it does seem to,
Yeah,
yes.
of course. You definitely need both. You definitely need both, Andy. And something that you
Well,
actually touched on that I wanted to bring up to maybe change everyone's point of view on this is, I know, Lee, you were talking about fear, and fear has always been false evidence appearing real. But one of the things that really changed my perspective on fear is what Kobe Bryant said. And Kobe Bryant said, fear is your ego's line, where it knows if you pass over that line, you will be irreversibly changed forever.
I
And
relate to that.
ever since I found that quote and I noticed where my body creeps up fear, I no longer think of it as, because for me, I always related to the false evidence appearing real. It's like, it's false, it's false. But then I realized that if something's coming up, my ego, of course, my ego is going to be like, run away, because it's our most faithful servant. It wants us to stay safe. But our higher consciousness, if we look at it with our higher consciousness or a higher point of view, and we say, wow, that's the line where my ego doesn't want to go. And if I step through that, I'm going to be changed forever. That's really what changed my
I'm with
perspective on
Susan.
fear.
Okay. Can I jump in to say something? Good morning, everybody. It's amazing because I don't know. I'm just thrilled about each and every lessons that we had, because it seems like every lesson brings like a spark of new knowledge here. And this about the fear to live is surely one of the probably biggest fears that I have overcome in my life. I didn't knew even that I had fear to live, and now I know what is this all about. I want to bring something else into the conversation, and it is because when you've been said that your holiness, that there is nothing my holiness cannot do, it kind of taps a little bit, I mean, from my point of view, taps a little bit with the ego, like saying, yeah, you're holy, then you can do every single thing. I mean, you're invincible and things like that. It's just like it kind of relates to this kind of egoic mind, in my point of view. But it's just, again, another level confusion in level of confusion is what is that? Yeah, level of confusion, because my holiness doesn't mean that I have to do anything to save the world, because the world is not meant to be saved. So what I need to do is remind myself always something that Bob always says, that we are not the miracle doers, we are the miracle workers. So so for us to break down the barriers, to let God do its job, or his job, or her job, whatever. So this part of being afraid of living is precisely like, if you realize that you really are holy, complete, of course you can think that there's nothing that you can't do, but therefore it's giving you your complete mind and your complete resources in this level of the form to a higher power, in order for you to have, instead of like this planning thoughts in your head that gives you always like this kind of anxiety because you want to control your reality. it will move you from that kind of mindset of always getting in control and planning things to just make it through the day and feel successful, to a visualization state of mind that you always being guided and you don't need to know why things happen. You just need to observe them, grab knowledge from them, and move forward with what your instincts and your right mind, in terms of being connected with the power of God, tells you to do. And that is some kind of reverse of the way we perceive our day-to-day um, challenges, in order for us just to let the source takes over. I mean, the power of God takes over us. So it's wonderful, because now I see like the connection between every single comments that we have now and the one that I had at the beginning, that was, well, the holiness doesn't mean that I have to do something to save the world. The only thing that I need to do is just break down the barriers for the light to come. So in that form, I don't need to have fear of living, because I don't have to plan that much what I'm going to do right now and be anxious that has to be like that. I can have my mind set up into some things that I want, but then I will release myself from the, like, it's kind of, it's not losing responsibility over the actions that you need to do in order for you to be safe and good or whatever. It's just that you let go God, you let go your control and let God do it. It's you. So your mind starts to move forward, instead of like having these planning thoughts, on having these kind of visualizations, because your heart begins to have like a place to perform this creative process in your mind. When you're only in your mind, you always you will always find like this kind of egoic thoughts that will lead you to the anxiety of planning, of controlling things, of on thinking that you can't, that you need to do everything by yourself. But if you let yourself embrace the holiness and the whole concept within you, then your heart comes into place, and it starts to give the mind another kind of feedback, in order for the mind to have connection with the source. And then therefore the magic, or well, it's not magic, but the miracles will start to happen, because then you will be acting in your life with a more aligned mindset with the source. So I wanted to share this, because I'm really seeing like these dots here perfectly connected. And of course, there's nothing my holiness cannot do, because we are all part of God, and God is the doer of the miracles.
And Adriana, something that you just said sparked up. That's why community is so important. When I was homeschooled my whole life, and one of the things that I was taught is your teacher, my mom, would give us a problem, and my whole class would work together to figure it out. And when I tried public school out, you guys all had these like individual desks. And when you guys took a test, you weren't allowed to work with each other. And to me, that's one of the basic ways to get through life, is that when you come up with a problem, or you have a problem, you need to work together. And if you are going off of the same probabilities and possibilities that you always have, you're always going to get the same result. And that's why sharing and talking with people and getting their perspectives and getting their ideas, this is how we share knowledge. This is why it's so important. Community is so important for this type of thing, to expand your consciousness. Because imagine if we tried to just get all this information by ourselves through books and through podcasts, versus like these rooms that we see in the morning. So I just wanted to bring that up. Thanks, Adriana.
I have to say one more thing. I'm sorry, Bob. Is it all right? It's on the subject of.
Of course.
Oh, thanks. It was on the subject of daydreaming and visualization again. So I realized that, yeah, when I'm in a creative mode, I'm in a visualization, like, because that's the ebb and flow, that's the do and the observance. And so when I don't stay just in observance, I actually like get really like, excited and want to create. And then I was thinking about my daydreaming, and though it's not intentional, I always love that feeling. It's so wonderful, and I get that glazed off in the distance stare, and somebody messes it up when they try to get me out of it. And I'm like, oh man, like I really loved it. It was so euphoric. It's really
But
euphoric.
when you get interrupted, how do you take it? Because it's funny that when we are like in this mode of I'm in visualization or creative process and we are in the zone, it's so cool to be there because it really
I
feels
know.
like there's nothing that you cannot do. But when somebody interrupts you, how do you take it, Andy? Because I mean, it's just that your your comment inspired some part of what I'm going to say, but I want to hear you first say, how do you take it when you get interrupted?
Yeah, I feel like um they like I purpose like I've been like something's intervened, and now I have to adjust really quick back to this metaverse. And then it's like it feels a little frustrated. Yeah, a little frustrated. I mean, I don't get mad at the person or angry. I just feel like I got cut short of flowing back in
You get
gradually, just as
attached
if
to
I
the past feeling. You get attached to the past feeling, and then you struggle to get back to that specific moment, right?
um
And are you have you been successful in doing that?
I think it's just simply that I go into it slow, and then I come out of them slow usually, and that might be why we don't notice them as often. But like if something gets, like bam, like you're out, there's an adjustment, and then you notice it. Maybe it's not real comfortable. Let's put it that way.
Well, because what I was going to say about it, it's funny. It's funny because it reminds me so many times that I was at work working in my I don't know analysis in numbers and things like that when I worked in the corporate world, and somebody in my team came and I was really like in the zone, having all my information in my mind, working my whatever report that I was doing or whatever, and then somebody in my team came in and made me like pull off my mind from that to address another situation. For me it was like that. I mean, what a frustrating thing to have, that I was really having all like I have seen everything so clearly in my mind. Then when I sit back again to do my work, I couldn't do it because I was frustrated. And it wasn't like blaming anybody. It's just that being disconnected from that creative process gives you the idea of fear that you will again be be away from God, something like that. It's funny because even in those kind of scenarios, there's the dynamite idea example all over again. And you feel like disconnected, and you feel like, oh, I lose my connection. Then you struggle to get back, and you maybe go back. But the thing is that if you lose, for example, with the Course in Miracles now in my life, whenever I had these situations that I was like in the zone and then something in my mind or something outside caught my attention, I no longer stay in the process like, oh, I have to deal with this and then go back to that. And I no longer see it like that, because now it's funny that I took those situations like, oh, I need to address something that I'm not seeing, and this is for a higher purpose. So I let myself be disconnected from what I'm doing, because now I know that as everybody around me has the same holiness that I have, if they are getting my attention into something else, it's probably for a greater good that I don't even know about. So I let myself take off from the original activity that I was doing, address the other situation in another kind of state of mind, because I'm not bothered anymore about it. I address those situations and I get back to the work that I was doing. And it happened to me that it is easier to to get get in the zone again when I let those interruptions to bring me the information or the I don't know. It's just that when those things happen are for higher reasons. It's like when you hear those stories where somebody just saved himself because he was late for work because he tied his shoes wrong and he had to stop and lose the bus and then didn't went to the office and in the office was some accident. Well, things like that. It's just that we don't know why we are getting interrupted when we are in the creative zone. But if you trust that everything is part of like this symphony, then you will address those interruptions without so much fear, and you will be able to connect again in such an easy way that the creative process is still there or even gets better, because there's sometimes where those interruptions give you like a mind space to let some other information get into your head, and probably when you sit down and you start to recap what you're doing, you start to see things that you didn't see because you were so focused on something. So if that helps, I wanted to share that because uh, those moments when you feel disconnected from a creative zone are just a replication of the tiny mind idea concept of you being separated from the source. And there's
Mm,
no need to feel it like that
yeah,
because everything is holy. So everything is happening for a higher reason. So
that's
it's
really.
what?
I'm interrupting you.
Oh, go. I guess I made my point already. Thank you.
That was an interesting point. Honestly, it did pique my interest very much when you spoke about how it felt like I was being like what it was that I was being taken out of my connection to the Creator. Yes, that really did resonate when you said that. And then I had I was thinking a lot about that for a minute. Well, for for a couple minutes, and I was listening to you, but it was still I got my mind was like, whoa, okay. So I felt disconnected from my creator. And now you're saying that I had a fear that I was disconnected from the creator. And I'm like, okay, I can see where that could be. And then, and yes, it did feel euphoric. Why? Because it wasn't in the body. It felt heavenly. It feels very heavenly. I feel like I'm in a flow state, which is not a worry state. There's no worry there. It's so euphoric. And then I was thinking, now you're saying, but you don't have to feel disconnected. You can, and yes, I'm like, so I'm just like, thank you. I think that was a great, super great share. I really received it. And I see it. I so understand what you're saying, and believe that's so.
Wow, you two girls had a great time there.
Thank you, guys. True.
Well, us three
I,
really
I,
did.
Andy, I couldn't agree with both of you more. There's a new word that I came upon yesterday in some reading that someone forced me to do, whether I wanted to or not. And I had seen it many times in my life. I had no idea what it meant. And it's a German word, and they're very fond of these very long words which mean things that we don't tend to think about most of the time. The word is Zeitgeist, and it's spelled Z-E-I.
Zeitgeist.
Zeitgeist.
Well, it says Zeitgeist in the pronunciation guide, so I did look at even that. However, I don't really care how they pronounce it. The word itself is really strange just to look at, um, and it's defined as the defining spirit or mood of a particular period of history, as shown by the ideas and beliefs of the times. The reason I came across this is because there's something called TZM, the Zeitgeist or whatever movement. And their whole purpose is to, in their own way, summarize all the elements of life and thinking and believing and putting it all and the mood of everything of what's going on right now, and then help society or life or whatever move into a better place than we are now. So moving from one zeitgeist to a new one that's better for us somehow, and as determined by having studied everything that's here, being able to move forward. Well, one of the problems with that is something that Einstein said: you can't go into a new place if you're thinking the way you've been thinking. And that's very similar to this. But the question is, first of all, if you're going to change something, how do you know which way to go? Is it going to be better or is it going to be worse? And that comes right back to what Adriana and Andy were working on here. Because if there's going to be some kind of change in the way we think about stuff, we can tell if it's good or bad if, considering one direction, it brings up fear, and considering another direction, it brings up love, happiness, joy, things like that. So what do we do? Do we stay the way we are? Do we daydream into another place and then somebody says, "Hey, get real, will you?" That's what Andy was talking about. When you get boom, you get knocked out of your daydreaming, and you got to get on with your job or whatever else is going on, and you were having such a good time in that daydream that how dare they burst that bubble. So what is all of this about, and what has it got to do with our lesson for today? And that is that, on the one hand, whatever area you want to go forward and explore as a possible better, or at least a different way than the way things are going for you now in your overall mood and thinking, this zeitgeist, um, whatever that is, this lesson says there is nothing my holiness cannot do. So the holiness is an elevated way of looking. It's elevating this zeitgeist from where it was, which was normal, natural, ho hum, boring stuff that we have to do. We have we have to make 3 meals a day, or 2 meals a day, or 1 meal a day, but we have to do something to feed us. We have to drink some water, and we have to do a job so we make some money and do that. That's the normal thing. But there's another way of thinking about stuff that all of this book is trying to teach us. It's a totally new zeitgeist. Let's change it. I don't know what to call it.
Zeitgeist.
Um, okay, zeitgeist. We'll just that's easy. We'll keep them both the same. There's a whole new zeitgeist that you can't get to by using all of the stuff that's in the zeitgeist. You have to think that the way out is going to be something special and good for you. And what is that? It's a miracle. The miracle is what pops us out of the normal mood, the normal way of doing things, which is boring after a while. It's whatever it is. There are some people who love their job and they will keep doing it for the next 28 years, 38 years, whatever, until they get their gold watch, which I don't think they even give out anymore. If you stay at your job, why do you want to stay at your job? You don't particularly want to unless it's really perfect for you. It's your boss, it's the man who runs the company that would love you to just stay where you are if he is not going to explore better ways of doing things. So, this lesson is a real turning point for us because it says we can turn a corner and look at things differently. And that's what every lesson up till now has been saying. We can begin to think differently about this life. And it starts off by saying, "Oh, I'm going to think differently about books and bicycles and whatever." We begin to see things differently and that miracles are possible. Now, when do you get to the stuff, the good stuff, where you can be involved in miracles? Well, you're doing this stuff. You stop stopping yourself.
It's a good time to
from
start.
believing. You stop stopping it. I didn't hear what you said, Lee, but I
Oh, I
heard
was
something that,
saying that sounds like a good time to start. So
yes.
continue though, and then I'll bring us into the meditation.
Okay, I'll finish up here because this would be easy to go on because that's the idea. Let's move. Let's try this out. Let's try that out. And as we do that, then we find this thing that we all now call rabbit holing because we try out some of these alternate paths and whoops, that is not working for me at all. And then you hear Dr. Phil's voice. How's that working for you, boy? And say, okay, that's not on the path that I want to go because it has a dead end. But we need to know that there is a path. There's nothing that we can't do. We could keep going down that path that all of a sudden proved that it was not a good path for us. It might be good for someone else. But we're open to all possibilities. That's what this lesson is saying. At that point when we're turning and we're looking for something new, a new way of doing it, here's the key of the whole thing that I'm getting at finally, Lee. We can change our mind. And we are changing our mind from zeitgeist-based to miracle-based.
Oh, wonderful, Papa. You changed my mind. That
Miracles.
was great.
Oh, always glad to help
Miracle-based
you out.
mind.
Always glad to help you out, Lee. Which way did you come in?
It's from the left. Wait, the right? I don't know. All right. There's nothing my holiness cannot do. 4 practice periods today. So we'll take care of the first one right now. It's about 7:30. Let's do the next one at about 11, 2, 4, maybe 6 o'clock in the afternoon. So we spread these guys out. Set a reminder for yourself if you need to. Go ahead and do that right now while I read what we're going to do. In the 4 practice periods, each preferably to last a full 5 minutes. Repeat the idea for today. There is nothing my holiness cannot do. Then close your eyes. Search your mind for any source of pain, sorrow, sense of loss, or unhappiness of any kind. And try to make little distinction today between something that's hard for you and something that's difficult or hard for somebody else. It's all of us as one that we're working on today. Did you want to say something, Dad? Identify the situation specifically and name the person concerned. Use this form in applying the idea for today. I'm going to use a fictitious character named Billy as my example because it sounds better than blank. Billy Blank. That's the guy that taught typo, right? Billy Blank and the typo thing? Yeah, that was the 90s. All right, long time ago. In the situation involving Billy, in which I see myself, there is nothing that my holiness cannot do. In the situation involving Billy, in which Billy sees himself, there's nothing my holiness cannot do. And from time to time today, you have some creative license to add and embellish with thoughts of your own, and they'll be relevant to your situation. So you might, for example, include thoughts such as, there's nothing my holiness cannot do, because the power of God lies in it. All our previous 37 lessons are great examples. I'll go back and review a couple of them. Ready? My holiness blesses the world. My holiness envelops everything I see. My mind is a part of God's. I'm very holy. I could see peace instead of this. There's another way of looking at the world. I've invented the world I see. I'm not the victim of the world I see. Take any of the titles of our previous lessons. There's plenty in there And as Adriana pointed out, the index, the table of contents, is a great place to be able to see all of our lessons summed up. You get to see all 365 titles right there in a row. It's helpful. Introduce whatever variations appeal to you, but keep the exercises focused on the theme. There is nothing my holiness cannot do. The purpose of today's exercises is to begin to instill in you a sense that you have dominion over all things because of what you are. Throughout the day, keep this in mind for some shorter, more frequent applications, just by saying the title. There's nothing my holiness cannot do. If something comes that disturbs your peace today, someone arises, some problem comes to mind, use this more specific form of the application. If Billy pisses you off, remember, in the situation involving Billy, in which I see myself, there's nothing my holiness cannot do. All right, I'm going to put 5 minutes on the clock and lead you through our first lesson of the day together. There's nothing my holiness cannot do. Close your eyes. Repeat this phrase to yourself. There's nothing my holiness cannot do. Close your eyes. Search your mind for any source of pain, sorrow, sense of loss, or unhappiness of any kind. This can be any situation that's difficult for anybody in the sonship. We're all brothers and sisters in the sonship. We're all equal and part of one in the sonship. So any challenge, any loss, any unhappiness will do here. Name the person if it's applicable. There is nothing that my unholiness cannot do. There is nothing my holiness cannot do. Good morning, Rosa. We're doing our meditation. There's nothing my holiness cannot do. Open your eyes for a moment. Take a nice deep breath. Close your eyes. Search your mind for pain that you or your brothers and sisters are going through. There is nothing that my unholiness cannot do. Let your mind wander to find the situations that need healing. As they rise up, let them be healed, because there's nothing your holiness cannot do. You have dominion over all things because of what you are. There is nothing your holiness cannot do. When God gives us dominion over all things in this world, He's talking about all problems, all difficulties, and any suffering in any form. God granted you this dominion ages ago when you were brought into this existence. You've had it all along. It's time to use it for your benefit and for the benefit of the rest of the sonship. So today, if you encounter unhappiness, loss, pain, sorrow, remember, there's nothing your holiness cannot do. Your holiness reverses the laws of the world. It is beyond every restriction of time, space, distance, and limits of any kind. Your holiness is totally unlimited in its power because it establishes you as a child of God at one with the mind of His Creator. Through your holiness, God is made manifest. Through your holiness, the power of God is made available. And there is nothing the power of God cannot do. Your holiness, then, can remove all pain, can end all sorrow, and can solve all problems. It will do so in connection with yourself and with anybody else. That healing power is in your vision to choose. It's equal in its power to help anybody, because it's equal in its power to save everybody. If you're holy, so is everything God created. If you're holy, because all things He created are holy. And all things He created are holy because you are holy. Close your eyes again. Search your mind for a source of pain, sorrow, sense of loss, or unhappiness of any kind. Apply our thought for today. This situation with this person that you see yourself. There's nothing that your holiness cannot do. Amen. Thank you, everybody. What a wonderful time we've had this morning. I appreciate you so much. Thanks for being here. We've got about 15 minutes at the top of the hour. We've made great time today, and I appreciate you all. Please feel free to stay and relax and share if you need to. We'll be here tomorrow at 6:30, working on lesson 39.
Thank you, Lee, for that beautiful meditation. It was really wonderful. Good morning, Rosa. How are you this morning?
So
You're
good.
still in the speaker mode because we hear you so far.
Wonderful. Good morning, everybody. So I hope that meditation helps. Please don't forget to set yourself a reminder. 3 more practice periods to remind yourself that there is nothing your holiness cannot do. So now's a good time to set those 3 reminders for yourself. Think about 11 a.m., maybe 2 p.m. Something in the evening to bring it back to yourself, because you should go to sleep with this in your mind so you can wake up and do what God needs you to do.
Good morning. I came in on the right time, right in the middle of the meditation. Someone called me out. I don't know who it was, whether it was this community or some of the other communities that I join in the morning, but I heard my name as clear as day. Rosa, can you read? I was like, wait a minute, hold up. Am I on something that I didn't know? I thought I was asleep. I was like, I mean, clear as day, like I was sitting in a classroom somewhere. I said, oh my God,
Well,
what
you
time
ready?
is it? I said, what time is it, God? I apologize. I apologize for missing the whole experience, but I'll go on to the replay later on today.
You caught
I
the
am
good
so
stuff. This is the good
grateful.
stuff. You're here
Right.
just in
And
time.
believe it or not, I was up. I've been traveling. So I came home yesterday and I was so tired. I laid down and I missed all of the afternoon of Sunday. You know. And this morning I woke up. It was 3 o'clock, and I was wide awake.
Oh, I know what
So
that's
I
like.
did my prayers and all that, my meditation, all that, and then I said, "Well, you know what, Rose? It's only 5." And I think about that time it was about 4:30. I said, "You could just lay down for a minute, and the alarm will go off, and you'll be up." Psh, no alarm. Somebody's my name alarm. So
Well, I
whoever
love
that,
having you here. I'm sure grateful you're here.
yeah, you
Today
guys,
we were on lesson 38. There's
yeah.
nothing my holiness cannot do. And we are just applying that with our eyes closed. We're going to do that 4 times today.
Yes, I was doing it when I went to sleep.
Wonderful.
So
That
how
is
is
the
it that
best.
how apropos that spirit woke me up before the ending, right? Before, so I could say good morning. And there is
Yes,
nothing our holiness cannot do. Nothing.
that's right.
Rosa, you didn't miss anything on Sunday afternoon. It was very boring, frankly.
Ah, life to me, even if nothing's going on, is not boring. So
Oh,
somewhere in that day,
it was.
I had some experience that I may not be aware of that will come back to me soon.
Well, I went down a rabbit hole,
Oh my God.
and when I got all the way to the end, I realized I had to go back, and it was this Zeitgeist thing, Zeitgeist, and it was basically just saying this is the way life is, and they spend all of this study and time is figuring out the way it is, the way it is, the way it is. I can easily say I don't like the way it is, and I'm going elsewhere. And that was the end of a boring afternoon, and I finally got to understand that understanding all about how bad it is isn't really going to help me get to the good side of everything.
That's
And
great.
because I'm holy, I have the possibility of being involved in miracles to really get a change and bust out of this normal reality that everybody says we have to live in. That was my Sunday afternoon. That's why I said it was boring.
Mm. It's
So,
easy to get into that thing because people always want to inform you of stuff, and most of the stuff that they inform you is can be observed as a negative. But before I went to sleep last night, I was I'm affiliated with a woman by the name of Kaisi Reverend Love. Um, so she does what's called Christian She's a Christian witch. She manifests things using the things that we use in A Course in Miracles, amongst other things. And I was on their chat yesterday, and they were talking on Sundays. First of them, well, on Sundays she does what's called Christian Witch Church, where they discuss some of the lost books and facts in the lost books. And they were on the story of Adam and Eve and what she's discovered in deeper search. And they got into the conversation about being a witch and letting their families and friends know that they have this magical power of witchery. And the thought came to me, what does it matter that they know or don't know? Aren't you doing your work anyway? Why do I have to call myself out and name myself when in fact the course says everything I name is an imagination. Everything that I call myself is an imagination. It is only in my body or in my mind that I see myself as this. Why do I need to name myself? And then they went into, well, people have such a negative attitude towards witches when they hear that word. And I'm like, what matters? What difference does it matter what people have or don't have? I just, I wrapped my head around that one for a minute. So I guess I was in a rabbit hole too. People can do whatever they want, bottom line.
That is
So, Rosa, why
fantastic,
you
Rosa.
questioning? I call myself a God person, so I don't tell people that. But my name is Rosa Hodge. I just and somebody
Mm-hmm.
gave me that name, and whatever it entitles or whatever it encompasses that, I'm all right with it until it no longer is all right, and then I could change it. But do I
Yes,
need
ma'am.
to know the world to know what I'm doing?
Nope.
And is that in fact important because people can get monetary gain from saying those things. Somebody's going to follow you. Somebody's going to give you. Somebody's going to. So in the last run of it, I just said, it's really not that important. You do what you do, and I'm all right with it as long as I don't have to do it.
Yeah,
Right?
it's a rabbit hole just trying to define ourselves as someone else. My sister, who passed away years ago, she was 15 years older than me. And in one way, she opened up my eyes to the whole world of psychic, uh, not only possibilities, but powers, because she had a lot of skills in things that we normally now call psychic. And she said many times that if she had lived in Salem a few hundred years back, she would have been burned as a witch, not because she called herself a witch, but because some of the things she could do, like bend spoons by looking at them, um, they would have thought, "Oh my God, you must be a witch if you can do that," and that just shows how stupid people can be. So, no matter how you define yourself, it doesn't mean a whole lot other than the things that we're learning here. Oh, I'm holy. Oh, well, okay, that eliminates a whole bunch of ways that I could have defined myself. And so we are redefining ourselves as we also learn how to think differently about ourselves and putting a label on it. I would just call myself right now a miracle in working. We're on the way, folks, and we're learning how to get out of our own way, change our thinking, and allow miracles to work through us. That's the Course in Miracles.
That
And
is so
Rosie, you
delicious.
are
That is
you are a
so
miracle. Just to see your picture, you got the biggest smile that I've seen.
delicious. And
Uh,
I'm smiling real
Adriana
good.
comes up there too, pretty close to it. And then Lee's got a silly smile in one of his pictures. And the other one, well, it's the same picture, isn't it, Lee? One's a blow up
Uh-huh.
of it. I say silly, but what's wrong with silly sometimes?
Right.
Silly's good. Makes other
It's
people smile.
super good.
I tend to smile a lot. And I remember when I was in network marketing, one of my leaders, in fact, he was my sponsor. And I was telling this woman about our program and I was smiling. And he said,
Hmm.
after the person left, he said, "Why are you smiling? Don't you take this seriously?" I said, "Sweetie, it has nothing to do with what I'm taking. That's just who I am. I want to be the person that can smile and give you bad news and make you feel better. Sometimes, I know this person that could tell you that you're about to be killed and make you feel good about it.
That's the perfect example. That's the perfect
Yeah.
example of how not to try to save the world, because the world is not meant to be saved. Just enjoy it, right?
Yes. Yes. No matter what you're doing, smile. A smile will change your heart feelings immediately. Unless your mind comes in and says, look, you sad. You need to be smiling or crying. No, no. I'm glad that I'm here. And every experience I've had, I've learned from. I do believe, but we'll see. Or we'll see. There are many
Shan,
lessons.
do you want to give us some
Yeah,
comments on
Rosie,
it?
you really triggered. Can you hear me okay?
Yes,
Yeah.
ma'am. Yes, sir.
Okay. Okay. Sorry, you all went quiet. You just kind of triggered something in me that, in a good way. It's like, we think about these labels, these names, these definitions we try to put on things so that we can, understand them a little better. I'd like to contrast that with, imagine a beautiful scene or a beautiful painting that arises a spiritual feeling inside of you. And that feeling is often called an ineffable feeling, an undefinable feeling, because it's so beautiful. There's so many different colors that, if you were to try to put that or love into words, it would be nearly impossible. And so I would challenge everybody in this call to just admire beauty, to just admire the art in life without trying to define it, with just being the beauty that it is. Because I find that when I try to define and label things, that's me trying to put my ego in and trying to measure something to something that I can understand, rather than seeing it for the ineffability, seeing it for the beauty that, I can't describe. And I believe that's the point, is that when something's bigger than you, when something's just not tied to ego, that it lacks verbal definition, you know and labeling is very helpful for practical purposes in life. Don't get me wrong, this isn't a binary thing, good and bad, by any means. It's just, since our focus determines our reality, and if I'm focusing on a label, then I'm focusing on a smaller version of reality than what is really occurring. And there is just so much beauty out there that,
No,
without definition, we can just make it a part of us and a part of our life experience.
I love that. That's a great word. And it's another good word, like zeitgeist. And it's exactly the opposite, because that other word, zeitgeist, they were trying to define everything. And they
Hmm.
can define and spend eternity trying to define everything. But what are they feeling? And, well, they can try and define feeling and mood. That's part of it. But I'd rather just feel it instead of define it.
Okay. Hey, Riza, I need you to come a little closer to your microphone for us to hear you if you wanted to share, Riza.
من mümkün olmasa sen onlar. Koç çıkıp gelirken vaktim bile ha. Çıkıp gelirken benim şehir yokumda.
Okay, maybe it's not on purpose. Hard to tell. Sorry, Papa.
Mm, that's okay.
I like the fact that I don't have to define it if I don't want to. And in fact, when I was on that chat, that's the way I felt that they were conversating from their ego. And, because ego wants to say, here, look at me, this is what I can do, especially if you're
It
in the
sure does.
world of other people that you're associating with or being a part of. You want to make yourself a part. So, yeah, I may call myself that, but is that really what I need to do? And perhaps that's what I should have. Is that from your ego, or is that from you trying to, I don't know what. Anyway, I got that too. And I love that idea. I don't really have to define anything. I can just be.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, you can.
You know what, Rose? I look at that picture of you, and then I listen to what you say, and I'm not defining you, but I'm going to tell you, you remind me of James Brown just getting ready to start his song. Whoa! I feel good. I mean, it's just like that. That's just what it is. And how can you even define that? I don't know. It's just wonderful. I love that picture of you.
Thank you so much. I love the fact that I'm just here. When I wake up in the morning, I say, "Good God morning." I'm woke. Thank you. So let me begin my lesson for today. May it be good and excellent, no matter what. See it all as good. Count it all joy. Period. Acceptance. So I want to thank you, but I have like two other things I need to at least pop in to let them know that I am alive and kicking. See what they
All
up
right.
to. You guys, I will remind myself of course, put my reminders on of the course. And
All right, Rosa, I'm playing you out.
be blessed.
Oh, I'm so glad you were here, Rosa. Thank you. You ready?
Thank you, Rosa.
Who's ready for a great day, everybody? Have a wonderful day. Man, he's got a voice, huh? All right. I hope you all have a magnificent day. There's nothing your holiness cannot do. Feel free to say hi or goodbye or anything you like. Thank you all for joining us. We'll be here tomorrow at 6:30. Have a great one.
Bye, y'all.